We suspected this was coming, the palpable conflict between what Donald Trump has been saying and what Dr. Fauci, the top infectious disease doctor in the country, has been saying. The conflicts have been obvious for months, and yet they danced around the differences until now. Everything that has happened to Dr. Anthony Fauci has been absolutely embarrassing for what it says about our country. Coronavirus protesters chanting "Fire Fauci" at their protests, conspiracy theories about Dr. Fauci, including bogus videos about coronavirus that target him as a bad actor. Senator Rand Paul attacking him earlier this week, scolding him, saying, "You're not the be all end all." And now Donald Trump seemingly seeing the door open to start more directly going after Dr. Fauci, has publicly broken with Fauci and saying that Dr. Fauci's claims earlier this week during the Senate hearing about, we may not be able to open schools in the fall. Trump is now calling that unacceptable. And what Trump means really is that it's politically unacceptable. And I'll explain why in a moment. Let's take a look at what Donald Trump said.
Dr. Fauci is playing both sides. Are you suggesting that the advice
Well,
he's giving to you is
I was
different?
surprised by his answer, actually, because, it's just, to me, it's not an acceptable answer, especially when it comes to schools. The only thing that would be acceptable, as I said, is professors, teachers, etc., over a certain age. I think they ought to take it easy for another few weeks, 5 weeks, 4 weeks, who knows, whatever it may be. But I think they have to be careful because this is a disease that attacks age and it attacks health. And if you have a heart problem, if you have diabetes, if you're a certain age, it's certainly much more dangerous. But with the young children, and students, it's just take a look at the statistics. It's pretty amazing.
Notice that Trump doesn't present any counterfactual. Trump just says Fauci's answer is unacceptable. And that doesn't mean it is scientifically unacceptable. It doesn't mean that it is medically unacceptable. What Trump means is it's politically unacceptable because if there's no school in September, it's probably not good for Trump's reelection in November. If there's no school in September, that signals likely economic calamity continuing to such a degree that it's going to hurt Donald Trump in November. Trump also throws in there, by the way, kids are mostly fine and not affected by the virus. We've already covered that. Children, number one, can spread the virus hugely. Even if they don't get significantly sick, they can bring it to all of their homes from school. Then their parents get it. Then their parents can't go to work. Then their parents can't earn money. You understand the problem of this. And we are also, by the way, seeing a Kawasaki-like disease in kids with coronavirus that still needs more investigation. There's been several dozen cases so far. We really don't know that much about it so far. Now, what this conflict means in terms of Dr. Fauci's future, I don't know. One thing that I like in terms of breaking from Trump is Mitt Romney. We've been watching Mitt Romney, and Mitt Romney has started regularly ribbing Trump. During the Senate hearing earlier this week, Romney actually asked Dr. Fauci, Donald Trump has been saying Obama is to blame for the fact that we don't have a coronavirus vaccine right now. That's ridiculous, of course. And he offered Dr. Fauci the opportunity to answer. And of course, Dr. Fauci confirmed, no, not having a vaccine right now has nothing to do with Obama. It also has nothing to do with Trump. And I want to talk about that in a moment.
On a separate topic, my impression is that with regards to vaccines, where I'm critical of what we've done on testing on vaccines, we've done a pretty darn good job of moving ahead pretty aggressively. And yet the president said the other day that President Obama is responsible for our lack of a vaccine. Dr. Fauci, is President Obama or by extension President Trump, did they do something that made the likelihood of creating a vaccine less likely? Are either President Trump or President Obama responsible for the fact that we don't have a vaccine now or in delaying it in some way?
No, Senator, not at all. Certainly, President Obama nor President Trump are responsible for our not having a vaccine. We moved, as you said, because I described it in my opening statement, rather rapidly. No one has ever gone.
So, listen, I like what Mitt Romney is doing. I'm not rehabilitating Mitt Romney's image. I'm not doing any of that stuff. But seriously, who can deny that we would be better off right now in this crisis with Mitt Romney as president rather than Donald Trump? But to the other point that I want to make, when we talk about we don't have a vaccine right now And that's not Obama's fault, obviously, and it's also not Trump's fault. I want to make really clear that you need to be prepared for a new line of disinformation that's going to start relatively soon. Donald Trump is going to take credit for a vaccine when there is one. Donald Trump is going to take credit for treatments as we find more effective treatments. And it has nothing to do with him. Understand that it has absolutely nothing to do with him. We eventually are going to find a vaccine, and eventually people are going to get vaccinated, and eventually the pandemic will end. In the same way that on yesterday's show, I outlined for you how no matter what the death toll is, Trump will say, thanks to me, it wasn't 2.2 million, whether it was going to be 60,000 or 100,000 or 160,000 or whatever the number is. Trump will always take credit for it, when in fact, Trump's responsibility is that it's going to be worse than it had to be because of his slow action. When it comes to vaccinations and treatments, they have nothing to do with Trump, but he will eventually take credit for those as well. Depending on when we get those things, he will use them to justify his reelection in November. And he has nothing to do with why we don't have a vaccine right now. And he will have nothing to do with us eventually having a vaccine. Never mind that the vaccine that ends up being widespread in use in the United States may actually be developed by a different country altogether. Don't forget that stuff. This is part of the disinformation propaganda that they are using, which is deflect on any of the blame. Oh, listen, PPE, the problem was Obama and governors, but we solved it by, after 2.5 months, finding PPE for people. Ventilators, oh yeah, the problem was New York didn't buy a whole bunch of them 2 years ago and this and that. The fact that we were slow with the national stockpile, that doesn't figure in anywhere. And much the same way, Trump will get credit for the death toll not being as high as it hypothetically could have been. Trump will try to take credit, rather. And it's up to us to remember the death toll is higher than it needed to be. Look at South Korea, got their first case within hours of the United States getting its first case. Don't let them gaslight you. Remember, I'm on Twitter at @DPakman, and I love hearing from you. Let me know what you think.